Hello, I'm Kyle Osgood.
Jack McCormick.
Kento Abewaradana.
I'm Jordan Silversmith.
And I'm Zach Overly.
And this is our Red Talk on To Kill a Mockingbird. Macon County is separated by the conflict between the whites who believe they are supreme to the black victims. As both Gem and Scout mature in the story of growth, they begin to classify those in Macon County as moral folks, the enforcers of racist majority, the followers of racist majority, or the victims. Even though the children slowly begin to distinguish acts of racism, most are still innocent and do not fully understand the adults whose minds have been warped by racist ideals. There is an aggressive tension between the whites, blacks, and those that disagree with racism. Lee destroys racist stereotypes about blacks, proving that all types of people have committed the same mistakes, not just blacks. The racist majority is constantly scrutinized by those that are driven by morality.
So in this scene, Gem and Scout are talking about the different perspectives of the county, and Gem explains, "I've thought about it a lot lately, and I've figured it out. There's 4 kinds of folks in the world. There's the ordinary kind like us and the neighbors. There's the kind like the Cunninghams out in the woods, the kind like the Ewells down at the dump, and the Negroes." After Scout asks about other ethnicities, I mean Macomb County. The thing about it is, our kind of folks don't like the Cunninghams don't like the Ewells, and the Ewells hate and despise the colored folks. So the 4 kinds of folks that Gem talks about, starting with the ordinary kind, he means those that despise racism and believe in morals, such as Atticus, who tries to reinforce this throughout the novel. The Cunninghams out in the woods, which would be the decent people under the influence of racism and majority. The Ewells down at the dump, meaning those that discriminate only because they know they can win because they are white. And the Negroes, who are the victims, the decent people that cannot escape the realities of life in the county. In response, Scout states that Walter's as smart as he can be. He just gets held back sometimes because he has to stay and help his dad. Nothing's wrong with him. Nah, Gem, I think there's just one kind of folks. Scout's ability to appreciate people for the kind of people they are rather than their social class embodies Lee's tone, saying the morals of humanity should always overcome the personal opinions of the majority of society. This is the lesson that Atticus reinforces throughout the novel as he combats the rest of society when defending Tom Robinson.
In contrast to the idea of morality possessed by characters such as Atticus and Miss Monty Atkinson, Lee takes on the mob mentality of the majority, primarily through the theme of racism that we've been following. The first example of racism is an example of blacks being racist to whites, and comes from the scene where Calpurnia takes Gem and Scout to her church and they run into Lula. I felt Calpurnia's hand dig into my shoulder. "What you want, Lula?" she asked in tones I had never heard her use. She spoke quietly, contemptuously. "I want to know why you bring in white children to N-word church." "They's my company," said Calpurnia. Again, I thought her voice strange. She was talking like the rest of them. "Yeah, and I reckon you's company at the Finch house during the week." When Lula came up the pathway toward Calpurnia, she said, "Stop right there, N-word." Lula stopped, but she said, "You ain't got no business bringing white children here. They got their church, we got ourn. It is our church, ain't it, Miss Cal?" This quote ironically shows that Lula is the minority, as the rest of the blacks at the church respect Atticus for helping Tom Robinson, but her ideals show the common thought that whites aren't as good as blacks, an racist idea shown by the majority. The second example comes from the scene where Mr. Cunningham and the rest of his gang of white country racists go to attack Tom Robinson at the jailhouse, but Atticus is there to avert them. Unlike the first example, the mob scene shows how whites are racist to blacks. "Ad in jail, he in there, Mr. Finch?" the men said. "He is," we heard Atticus answer, "and he's asleep. Don't wake him up." In obedience to my father, there followed what I later realized was a sickeningly comic aspect of an unfunny situation. The men talked in near whispers. "You know what we want," another man said. "Get aside from the door, Mr. Finch. You can turn around and go home again, Walter," Atticus said pleasantly. "Heck takes around here somewhere." This quote shows the white mob coming to attack Tom Robinson, which the mob representing the majority and their racist ideals, and Tom representing the minority and the blacks.
While in court, Atticus explains to the jury that the population has an evil assumption that all Negroes are immoral beings that sin. He then states, "Which, gentlemen, we know is in itself a lie as black as Tom Robinson's skin. A lie I do not have to point out to you. You know the truth. The truth is this. Some Negroes lie. Some Negroes are immoral. Some Negroes are not to be trusted around women, black or white. But this is a truth that applies to the human race and no particular race of men. There is not a person in this courtroom who has never told a lie, who has never done an immoral thing, and there is no man living who has never looked upon a woman without desire." In Atticus's court case, Atticus challenges the idea that the majority is stronger than morality. The majority's opinion is racist in the sense that black people are lesser than white people, and that no black person is credible or moral. Atticus shows that there is no difference between a white person and a black person, and that there should be no bias in the courtroom. Atticus's own moral values, that both black and white men are equal, even though they are strong and encapsulate the crowd of the courtroom, do not overcome the racist majority, as Tom Robinson is convicted guilty, but do show the reader that Atticus's views are morally right.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain. We all have sorrow. During Harper Lee's timeless novel, To Kill a Mockingbird, she details this timeless struggle between what is right and the mob mentality of the majority. Characters such as Atticus, who is presented as the champion of Lee's ideals, stand up to Bob Ewell and the racist majority of Macon County. This attempt to break down the brick wall of racism in the county parallels the struggle present when Lee wrote the book, and proves to the readers that morality can exist, even in the strongest majority. Thank you.